Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a game wrapped in controversy for not conforming to the standard Assassin's Creed formula. A formula that we are all too familiar with because we have seen it in every other Assassin's Creed game to date. According to most, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is not a real Assassin's Creed game as it doesn't follow the traditional formula. Although I am really glad that they did expand the formula which was presented in Origins, although I feel like they may have gone a bit too far in some aspects. By this point in the franchise, Ubisoft had been tweaking their formula for Assassin's Creed for a fairly long time, starting with Unity incorporating online co-op, Syndicate adding 2 interchangeable characters who had missions surrounding each character, then Origins embracing more of an open world RPG approach, and now Odyssey going full-blown open world fantasy RPG. There is certainly a good game hidden under this new coat of paint, with some new and fleshed out additions to the franchise presented in Origins. Whereas Ubisoft have taken a few more liberties with the premise of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, such as with the mythology of Greece being so prevalent in the main story. And to be honest, it's more mythology in a main campaign than I'd like. But let's continue on and see what Assassin's Creed Odyssey really did try to show us.
So, what course do we set?
Before you even start the game, you are presented with an option that is not interchangeable down the line, as the choice that you make will have some ramifications later on. Although, come on, not really very big ramifications, it literally doesn't matter. You choose your character, which is very strange as usually Assassin's Creed games have one definitive protagonist per game. Which is why we have been able to follow Desmond's lineage in the golden era of Assassin's Creed, should I say? Either way, you choose your character, Cassandra or Alexios. Cassandra is the canon character, which is partly why I chose her. I'm a big story guy. But to be fair, both characters are interchangeable in the story. Although I feel like they had one set story in mind, but had to give the players the option. As the marketing team and creative lead Sergei Haskoit said, "Women don't sell." Which sounds crazy. Which is why Alexios is the main figurehead in the marketing for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Which I completely disagree with, as we've had such great female characters such as Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, Lara Croft from Tomb Raider, Ellie from The Last of Us, the list could go on. Either way, Cassandra has a better way of portraying growth to the player through her tone of voice, emotion, physicality, and in my eyes is the far better choice. I mean, Alexios is like B-tier Ezio, wait. No, Arno is B-tier Ezio, Alexios is C-tier Ezio. Diluted Ezio reduced to nothing but a meathead. Where has Assassin's Creed gone? Who knows? The first part of the game starts off with you playing as Leonidas in the Battle of 300. This is a very fantastic moment in the game as it gets you to grips with all of the controls and new mechanics introduced in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Later on we start as Cassandra, a child being pushed off a cliff after killing a guard whilst trying to save her brother. Cassandra's father, Nicholas, grabs her by the arm and lets her go, tumbling down a mountain, presumably killing Cassandra. After being injured and sailing away on a tiny boat, Cassandra lands on the coast of Kefalonia and is found by Marcus, a conman and a connoisseur of wine. Just don't drink the wine. After flashing forward, we see Cassandra all grown up. She is greeted by 2 henchmen demanding for money. After a quick punch to the face, Cassandra has had enough and beats the 2 senseless. After that endeavour, you meet Phoebe, your friend, who gives you advice as to where to find Marcus. You find out that Marcus is on the run from the Cyclops, who Cassandra finds. She takes his fake obsidian eye and shoves it up a goat's backside. Note here that there is an interesting trophy that relates to these events. Honestly, a very random trophy, but a good one. After dealing with that whole scenario, Cassandra goes on the Addresser, her new ship, and sails away, later coming across Elpenor, who sends Cassandra to kill Nicholas, known as the Wolf of Sparta, also the man who threw you off the cliff and is also your father. Cassandra goes to confront her father, the Wolf of Sparta, and finds out that she has been replaced with a man named Stentor, Nicholas's adopted son. Stentor leads you to Nicholas, where it is revealed that he is actually Cassandra's stepfather. And after learning this, you can choose to either kill him or spare his life. After choosing the fate of Nicholas, you find out that Elpenor is in fact coinciding with the Cult of Cosmos, who are the main antagonists of the game, an organization who are trying to kill you and your family for your abilities. The player finds out that the spear Cassandra has been holding is the broken spear of Leonidas, the great warrior who fought in the battle of 300 Spartans from Peridonis. Also, that Alexios is alive and now goes by the name Demos, a secret weapon in the Cult of Cosmos. You then travel to Athens to find the great Pericles ruling Athens. And then you meet Socrates, who is very clever but very irritating, always questioning your actions. I can see how it relates to how he died in real life, as he refused to escape from prison and drank a poisonous drink that killed him to prove a point. Now that is dedication. Cassandra later discovers that her mother left Nicholas after the prologue of the game, where Cassandra and Alexios were presumably killed. Cassandra's mother actually became a sailor for some time and going by the name of Phoenix. But after Athens has been consumed by a deadly plague, killing most people in the local area, Demos kills Pericles and Phoebe is also killed, in a not so engaging manner. I didn't really feel anything towards Phoebe's death, sadly. It's just one of these moments I wanted to, but I just couldn't. After Cleon takes over Athens, Cassandra actually finds her mother, who urges her to save her brother Alexios from the clutches of the Cult of Cosmos, and to seek out her real father, who is revealed to be Pythagoras. Yes, that one guy from school, the one that the maths teachers all across the globe loved. If they'd have taught us this version of Pythagoras, I think I would have probably paid more attention in class. And yet not long after meeting Pythagoras, he asks you to kill 4 mythical creatures: a Sphinx, a Gorgon, a Minotaur, and a Cyclops. This is to help seal the great secret of Atlantis, and it's crazy how this is still considered an Assassin's Creed game. It is shocking. Cassandra engages in battle with her brother Alexios in Sparta. Meanwhile, Cassandra is knocked out by a falling tree and is captured by the Cult of Cosmos. Cassandra later escapes by killing some guards, and then later on Socrates and Barnabas try and save you, even though you've already escaped. After heading back to Athens, you kill Cleon and return to the very cliff Cassandra and Alexios were thrown from. And it's at this point in time you decide the fate of your ending. Whether Cassandra and Alexios settle their differences and become a family once again, or with Cassandra killing Alexios. Either way, it ends with a lovely dinner together with those you have saved. And if you destroy all of the other cult members in the Cult of Cosmos, you find out that Aspasia is actually the cult leader. And it's at this point in time you get to decide once again if Aspasia lives or if she dies. Either way, this is a plot twist that I didn't really feel was that deserved and didn't necessarily shock me at all. I personally found Assassin's Creed Odyssey's story to be fairly enjoyable, yet oddly paced after the first 2 sequences. The only reason I say this is because you start off the game with one questline and then you're given a boatload of others. It does get fairly confusing as to which ones the player should prioritize, and the multitude of quests made it feel very overwhelming. I just wish we had a completely linear set of missions to follow, and then the rest of these other quests were endgame content, as it really does make the entirety of Assassin's Creed Odyssey feel really disjointed. As if nothing would really connect if I went off and did other quests, but if I stuck to one quest line, it would usually be very enjoyable. I personally really liked the characters in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, however I feel like certain characters were sidelined after a mission or 2. Peridonis and Barnabas, what? Who said that? Whoa, what was that? It must have been the wind. I'm glad that all of the characters in Odyssey were very fleshed out in their arcs, whether that have been small or bigger arcs, and not one character felt out of place or completely useless. Odyssey certainly did characters right. They felt like real people, which is what Ubisoft were going for with their approach to the Assassin's Creed franchise in recent years, starting with Origins, then Odyssey, and soon Valhalla, taking more of an RPG approach rather than the traditional and original formula.
For that, Alcabiadis.
Then someone fill his cup.
The gameplay loop is fairly enjoyable with a vast amount of side quests to help that level grind, and don't worry, I will be getting onto that level grind later. But most side quests are of really high quality, often not being able to distinguish side quests from main story missions. Each side quest generally will be a fetch quest or to kill a certain enemy, which is fine. I don't think there are many other types of activities you could do in the world that Ubisoft has created. But the drive to do these side quests is due to the NPCs, which often have a really good backstory, which are also of very high quality, might I add. After doing the same missions over and over again, it does start to get a bit boring, as usually you just fast travel to the closest synchronization point, ride over to the objective, and then after killing the enemies you return to the NPC and then just do the whole thing over again. However, there are a few standout side quests that are so much better than the rest. One side quest takes you on a journey to kill the real Minotaur, and after you have slain this mythological beast, you can find another quest in Mysaria, where a child says he can show you the real Minotaur. I anticipated a new fight with a different type of Minotaur, but in fact it just turned out to be a man in a bull mask. I was so baffled by this revelation, I just couldn't stop laughing. I did spare the man posing as the Minotaur and just went on my merry way back to the world. Another is relating to a very early mission in the game, but it's not technically a side quest, more of a trophy quest than anything else. As I noted previously, when you take the Cyclops' eye, you shove it up the backside of a goat and it runs off after you smack its ass. For the trophy Stink Eye, you must return to Kefalonia and collect the eye from a goat's backside. It is a very amusing trophy to get, as I made it my last trophy before my Assassin's Creed Odyssey Platinum. The best way to describe getting the Assassin's Creed Odyssey Platinum is in a few words, and it's a pun, it's ironic, I know, but it was a pain in the arse, put it that way. But now, here we are, let's talk about the elephant in the room, that being the humongous grind that you have when playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Each main quest mission you play has a recommended level, meaning that if you are not the recommended level, well, you're screwed. I can guarantee that I have done more side quests than main missions in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. How baffling does that sound? I have grinded so many side missions just to be able to do one main mission. I did so many side quests that I forgot that I wasn't even doing the campaign, which I guess is a testament to the side quest's quality, but that is not the point here. The point is that Ubisoft baked in these level barriers to prevent us from doing the main campaign in a linear fashion. It really did and still does irritate me the amount of time that I have spent doing side quests, and it would be ridiculous for me to check. But with all my playtime on top of the trophies for the Platinum, it would be an ungodly sight to see how much time I've spent in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and the time is, drumroll please, 87 hours, 25 minutes, and 34 seconds. That may not sound like a lot of time, but to me it felt like months of playtime, honestly. Sailing in my Adresser on the seas is quite fun, as the naval combat from Assassin's Creed Black Flag has returned, but with a limited arsenal due to the time difference between games. Each combat scenario was engaging and would fill me with dread as to whether my ship would hold up in a fight against 2 or more enemies. And even boarding enemy ships can be quite fun as you take out the rest of the crew and take the loot for yourself to either upgrade Cassandra and Alexios or to upgrade the Adresser herself. Assassin's Creed Odyssey's combat is very beat-em-up-esque. It's not calculated as in previous Assassin's Creed games, as now you have powers and skills at your disposal to use in combat however you like. It makes the game feel more like a cartoon than reliving historical events, and it overall cheapened the experience for me a little. I feel like the approach to big massive battles between the Athenians and the Spartans and all of the powers was, well, slightly overkill. When you're either roaming the world or in combat, Cassandra and Alexios always feel clunky, because it seems like the game is very on the rails in the sense of movement, whether you're on a horse or just running around. You feel very weightless when traversing the world, especially after you stop taking full damage, which is ridiculous in my opinion. Removing all full damage removes the risk of jumping from a certain height to evade enemies. Instead, you can just front flip off of a 200-foot cliff and be fine. And although I don't necessarily like the lack of full damage, it does have its uses and perks in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. But the parkour system has been extremely reduced to basically nothing but climbing a wall and jumping down. That's about it. And before anyone says that those are just the core principles of the older parkour system, that may be true, but there is no longer any finesse, no cool animations as you hop over a fence or climb up a building. Ubisoft seriously stripped back a system that made the franchise what it is, which sadly makes me have some concerns over the future of the Assassin's Creed franchise. The world of Greece is presented in such a phenomenal way and is easily the best Assassin's Creed environment that we have ever seen. With luscious green grass and trees mixed with colourful flowers and vines, Odyssey's world is very captivating. I often take the time to use the photo mode and take some amazing looking photos of the world and all that it beholds. Due to the intense amount of enemy camps or caves, the world is not scarce for things to do. But sadly, I have done every objective in the world, as I thought that there would be a trophy for completing all the objectives like in Assassin's Creed Origins. I know, I'm such an idiot. I don't know why I did not decide to read the trophy description. But on my travels, I took solace in knowing that I always had something to do, never just travelling Greece's many islands without a purpose. After a while, I realised that there were only a handful of objective types, meaning that a lot of the world's objectives were just reskins of the objectives that I had already completed, which was quite a shame, but I am glad to have completed them. The size of the map in Assassin's Creed Odyssey feels huge. It's not the biggest map we have ever seen in the franchise, that crown still goes to Black Flag, but the actual player space and the islands that you can roam around are far bigger in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The islands are generally quite large, meaning that you can be spending many hours on just one island. Since each island is fairly big, it meant that each island had their own personality and culture to them, making the game feel varied and not just like they have copied and pasted NPCs to each and every island. The water and sea in Assassin's Creed Odyssey looks absolutely stunning. Going from the murky brown water given to us in Assassin's Creed Origins to now the crystal clear blue water in Assassin's Creed Odyssey is amazing. The water is so amazing in fact that one of my friends even considered buying Assassin's Creed Odyssey for its water graphics and physics alone. And if that isn't a testament to the water in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, then I don't know what is. Assassin's Creed Odyssey has some really fantastic qualities to it. It has a decent story with very likeable and engaging characters that kept me invested throughout my journey, but with all of its downfalls, Ubisoft did create a great open world RPG. Notice that I didn't say Assassin's Creed. I personally feel like if Assassin's Creed Odyssey just released on its own, establishing its own new franchise, it would have been very well received by the public, especially instead of the fan base fighting and bickering over if it's a real Assassin's Creed. Instead, everyone could just take it as its own thing, and I feel like it would have been a lot more positive. Most of what Assassin's Creed Odyssey had to offer was of great quality, from the environments to the main story and even the side quests. Ubisoft did a good job with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, as although it was a mixed bag in its initial release window, many more people are brave enough to say that they like the game, without any hate comments or being slandered for saying such a ridiculous thing. Assassin's Creed Odyssey took a bold move in a new direction, a new way for us to experience a beloved franchise in a new and exciting way. even though it may not have been executed in the most elegant of ways, or just because it doesn't follow the old Assassin's Creed formula, or even because it doesn't feel like the old Assassin's Creed that we used to love. That doesn't mean we should regard it as the worst in the franchise, or even disregard it entirely. Ubisoft created a vast and immersive open world for all of us to travel, climb, explore and learn from, and also to have a fantastic time. But unfortunately for me personally, I don't really consider Assassin's Creed Odyssey to be a real Assassin's Creed game. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, then subscribe and turn on that notification button so you don't miss another upload from me. So thank you, and goodbye.